We have a new fusion that is coming to raid, and the question is this a fusion that you guys are go for? In today's video, we are going to look at this fusion, break it down a little, and I'll let you guys know if it is one that I think I'm going to need on my own account. Hey you guys, it's Cece. Welcome back to my channel. I know what you're thinking. Cece, we just had Poland. I'm still working on that. I'm just recovering from that. Well, we have another one that is around the corner now. This one is going to be starting on July the 3rd. So you do have a little bit of time to actually prepare if you feel like you are going to want this fusion. So let's go ahead and take a look. So this fusion is going to be a void defense, of course, a legendary. Now, Titus Blackplume looks pretty cool. I mean, I feel like suits the faction that he is going for. His aura, we're going to start here first, which actually increases void ally HP in all battles by 40%. Now, I'm not hating the fact that it is going to be, you know, an ally lead. For void though, I mean, I was going to say I have a decent amount actually of voids, especially on my main account where I do have Cece and Raglan, Sir Nicholas, and I'm gonna try to name them and fail at it, but yes, I have a decent enough amount on there, so the aura may be somewhat useful in that sense. Looking at the skills itself, so we have Raven Blade. Attacks an enemy, has a 40% chance of placing block active skills debuff for 2 turns. The effect cannot be resisted if this champ is under a shield buff. Fair enough. Whenever an ally counterattacks, it teams up with allies to attack or instantly activates a skill. Also has a 40% chance of placing a block active skills debuff for 2 turns on the target enemy, which is nice. If there's multiple, only one is going to activate. Fair enough, but essentially you do have that chance to potentially team up with allies to attack with this one. And the blocking of active skills on the skill 1, not necessarily a bad thing. Now, getting into some of the other skills here, Student of War. Attacks an enemy. This attack is always critical if this champion is under a shield buff, so we don't have to worry about building crit rate for this skill at least. This attack also gains a damage boost equal to the value of the shield. And essentially we want to be under that shield buff to take advantage of both of these skills. Removes all debuff from all allies if the target is killed. Now, if they survive, it's going to place bulk debuff on all enemies for a turn instead. This effect cannot be resisted if this champion is under a shield buff. So we need to get that shield buff is what I'm saying from all these skills so far, essentially. That one we can bring down on cooldown as well to a 3-turn cooldown. So next one, Androx Confidant. So places a 50% ally protection buff, a 50% increase attack buff, and a 30% increased speed buff on a single ally for 2 turns. Also fills the ally's turn meter by 40%. That's pretty big. I feel like you're getting a protection buff, you're increasing attack, increasing their speed, and also their turn meter. Instantly activates this skill at the end of the ally's turn if that ally has no buffs and their HP is lower than 100%. Okay, I mean, not necessarily a bad thing in there either. Now, going into the passive, each time an enemy attacks an ally, that ally's next attack will deal 10% more damage for each hit they take, which can stack up to 100. The damage increase resets after that ally deals damage. So, I mean, with the passive, you definitely have potential to do quite a bit of attack, but I say this with all champions, kind of looking through them and what they can actually do. Until they're actually really put to the test, it's hard to say like how they'll be good in that sense, but overall, looking at the skills, I don't see anything incredibly amazing. I'll be honest, you guys, like at least for myself reading under this, what I'm seeing is you definitely want to be under a shield buff. So it's going to be a must to really take advantage of those skills. Otherwise, you know, you're not really getting full use out of this champion. Overall, there's definitely a few thoughts actually with this champion and kind of looking at the skills. So for example, if we are talking about the content, I can see being useful in both PvP and PvE. PvP kind of looking at the skills that he can do and potentially his passive where he has the potential to essentially do more and more damage in long battles. And I'm thinking of things like Clan Boss Hydra, that type of thing. But then also looking at that 3rd skill where he does place the ally protection buff, the increased attack and increased speed buff. All of those things that he can do there is essentially like it's a passive, right? Because it does say it instantly activates this skill at the end of an ally's turn if the ally has no buffs and their HP is lower than 100%. So that 3rd skill being a passive essentially is what we're looking at, right? And going back to the skill 2, the attack always being critical if they are under a shield buff. So that's the only thing with how you want to build this champion, right? He is a legendary defense type, but you have a skill that essentially is saying like he's gonna crit, so you do want to build him with crit damage. But then at the same time, you do want to be able to get him to be able to place that third skill, and you want to be able to get damage output for him if you want to take advantage of his passive there. So kind of an interesting champion in that sense, but I do think there is a little bit lacking in here, which is the sense that he actually does not place a shield himself. None of his skills or passives do place a shield, and as I was saying, you want a shield to really take advantage of this champ. So you would have to pair him with somebody else on your team that can do a shield. And even they say themselves, like, the fact that it would be a great champion if you have Stalwart, for example. So yeah, if you have him, then this champ would pair really nicely in that way. So that being this champion right here, if you have this champion, then they will pair nicely together because it does place a shield buff equal to 30% of this champion's HP on all allies for 2 turns, and ally protection buff. Allies under shield buff receives 10% less damage. It just pairs well with the shield. Heals all allies the total value of shields on all allies. Removes all shields from all allies. Attacks all enemies. Yeah, so he's essentially a champion. Like, they say so themselves that he would pair nicely together. And again, that is because the champ himself, the fusion, cannot place his own shield. So I think that's something that we are going to need to consider when you're thinking of if this is a champ that you want, because on his own, I think he is going to need others to help him necessarily shine. And again, his aura is actually only limited to void. I do wish it was for everyone. Even if I have like a little bit of voids on my team, I do still think and wish it was for everyone. But in terms of like his overall build, for myself, I don't think it's anything that's necessarily groundbreaking, and that is simply because I would need to be able to build a team around this champion, I think, to take full advantage of him and his skills. If I actually go ahead and take a look at my champions, and this is just on one of my accounts, I have my other one as well, but this is one we're on, so what I'm looking at, and I go ahead and kind of click who I have that can place shield. I do have Demitha. She does have a shield on her A1, so that's a potential. I would definitely want to pair those two together because she does have that shield in there. I do have Taragi as well. Now, the question is, would I actually specifically pair Taragi with this champ? I think I'm more likely to actually pair Demitha. But my other thing with this account, something I'm considering, is I do have Wixwell, and not quite built yet. I am building. I know you guys said you want to see a clan boss video with this champ. It will be coming, but yeah, Wixwell technically is a champ that increases the value of shields on all allies. And then he also places the increased defense buff and a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns. So honestly, between my 2 accounts, if I was to actually want to go for this fusion, part of the reason I would want to is because I do Wixwell. And I think I would kind of just want to see how those champions really pair together, and if I feel like they would be a good fit together, because like, to take advantage of Titus, I want someone that places shields. I also want to be able to build Wixwell, and I think in that sense, they maybe can be a fun combo. Now, I don't necessarily know if this is a champ that I want to go for on my other account as well. It is kind of going to depend on where I'm at in that sense with the resources I have. Now, it is going to be a mixed fusion event, so something else to definitely keep in mind in that sense. And then also on this account, let's say if I am looking at what I have for voids, I've got some on this account. I mean, I've got Warlim, I've got Queen of Hearts, and that's for legendaries. And then of course I have good epics that are voids as well. But yeah, so if I'm considering the aura lead, even though I wish it was for everyone, I mean, I have some voids, which is fine, I'll take it. But in terms of if this champion is really going to be game changing, I think there's a lot of teamwork that needs to be done to really take fully advantage of his skills. So in that sense, I guess I'm still kind of 50-50. I'm not sure yet if it's like a champ I want to go all in for. Again, if I do between my accounts, I do think this is the account that I would want to, simply because of Wixwell. But I will say again, looking back at Titus's skills and kind of thinking of what they do, one of the only other things I'm looking at is with the Androx Confidant, the one that places the 50% ally protection buff, the increased attack buff, and increased speed buff for this one. So again, it instantly activates at the end of an ally's turn if that ally has no buffs and their HP is lower than 100%. So to take advantage of that third skill, you almost don't want buffs on that ally, and you almost want them to take a bit of damage just so that it'll instantly activate this. So that's one of those things with that skill that I'm kind of thinking about. It's like, okay, wait, so I actually don't want to protect that ally. So essentially, do I want to be able to buff up my team, or do I want to keep them like unprotected, unbuffed and everything, so that I can slowly use this skill on everyone? Is kind of how I'm understanding it. But again, I think maybe once we actually are able to play around with the champ and see him in different videos and things in that sense, then that will allow us to make a better judgment call on the champ itself. But as I said, overall, looking at these skills, I don't think it is anything that I'm incredibly wowed by, that I'm like, this is a fusion I have to get, need the champ. But I will say, I do think it could potentially kind of fun. Could just be those champs that maybe I do end up picking him up just so I'm able to kind of play around and just see what he can do with my team. If you download Raid Shadow Legends using my link, I'm actually going to start you off with the free legendary champion on day 1. And then at level 10, level 20, and level 30, you'll get yourself an epic. That is 4 amazing champions that you can get just by downloading using my link. So as I said, for myself, between my 2 accounts, if I do end up going on him, it's going to be the one with Wixwell. I'm going to have to see if I do decide to go for him. Again, this is going to be the fusion that comes out for July 3rd. I do want you guys comment down below. Let me know what are your thoughts on this fusion, and be sure you subscribe so you're able to follow along if I do get him, if I build him, and what we end up doing. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!